more love, more joy, everything.
It's inspired young people.
Inspiration comes from within you. When you clear out the garbage that's in your mind, you then create space for something better, more beautiful to come in.
Let's have life and have it more abundantly.
I say yes.
It's like taking a workshop. I get to be in my pajamas.
We have a very active imagination, which is why it's important to learn how to harness it and then point it in the direction you want to go.
I listen to your show every day.
It's time now for Living Your Inspired Life with Susan Burrell. Susan is no-nonsense, inspirational, motivational, and fun.
This is positive talk radio.
Practical wisdom for everyday life.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Now, here's Susan.
And hello, this is Susan Burrell, and you're listening to Living Your Inspired Life, and we're on News Talk 1590 KVTA. And if there's anything that you miss at any time or you just need to tune up, go to the website, livingyourinspiredlife.org, and just navigate and click around, and you'll find some really great exercises to do, as well as radio shows that we've already recorded that get archived there, so you can get your daily, how about a daily dose of inspiration? That would be awesome. So one of the things I love to do is promote things that are happening around town and in the county. And this is actually reaching out into Los Angeles County. The weekend of February 7th through the 9th, there is the Conscious Life Expo happening. And I have a couple of guests on today that are going to be doing some work there presenting. And I just thought that it would be awesome for everyone to hear about it and then go to the expo the following weekend and check out all the venues and the people that are presenting and all the stuff that's there, because it's a great way to get back in touch with who you are and find out some other tools that you don't know about. So today I welcome now author John Murray, and John has written a book that I love this title, John, Zentrepreneur, Get Out of the Way and Lead. Create a culture of innovation and fearlessness. And you're going to be doing stuff at the expo, yes?
Yes, yeah. I'm speaking on Saturday night at 6 o'clock.
Saturday night at 6 o'clock. Okay, so tell me what the Zentrepreneur thing is. Because it sounds like a weird combo pack.
Well, that's just perfect, right? Because sometimes you have to get a little outside the box to break free of your own self. And we all do it. So the Zentrepreneur, and I believe there's a Zentrepreneur in all of us, is it's really a combination of Zen presence, Zen peace of mind, Zen balance, a very holistic perspective on life, with entrepreneurship, with the entrepreneur who is one that takes risk, takes ownership, and actually gets things done. So it's more than just meditating and getting into our yoga practice and getting into some of the things that help us deal with day-to-day stress and anxiety and things like that. But it's actually living it and not just practicing it part of the day.
Right, so not putting it in one compartment of your life while you go to work and do the other thing.
That's exactly right. So it becomes part of our whole self, our true self, and our capital S self, our spirit.
Right. It was okay. This sounds like a kind of a oxymoron, or maybe a non sequitur. Because how do you zen when you're risking everything as an entrepreneur?
Well, that's just that is it. It is paradoxical. But the greatest teachers in history have always been taught through paradox and parable and stories that don't necessarily make sense to the first level learner, if you will. You got to go deeper than that. So, the Zentrepreneur, I was a very competitive athlete growing up, and I played the position of quarterback in football, among other things. And it's like the quarterback who walks up to the line of scrimmage. You've got to play, you've got a plan, you've practiced that plan and that play, but the truth is you don't really know what's going to happen. Life is uncertain.
Right.
And I use that as a metaphor for life because, day after day after day, we think we know what we're going to do. We've got a plan, we've got goals. But life is full of uncertainties. And sometimes, we get hit with things we weren't expecting. And it's our ability, and entrepreneurs get hit with things all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Statistically, most entrepreneurs fail within 2 years. And they have to try again, and if they've got it within them, and they try again, and they try again, and they might finally hit it on the third or fourth or fifth try. But the entrepreneur doesn't give up. The entrepreneur is like, there's no such thing as failure except quitting. So
right.
Every time I fail, if I learn something from it, how can I call that a failure? I've just learned something. It's like Thomas Edison said after 9,000 attempts at the light bulb. A journalist was interviewing him, and he said, I haven't failed yet. I've learned 9,000 ways that don't work. And that, that just captures the essence of the zentrepreneur. It's our spirit seeking creative expression, seeking manifestation of ideas. We all have it, but the problem is we get in our own way.
Right. And so, John, if you could share just a little bit about how this happened, that you began to put this Zen idea, which I would imagine is part of your spiritual practice, into your business consulting. How did that? Did you have like an aha day and went, wow, I need to do yoga while I'm answering phone calls? Or I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, it hasn't been a single aha moment. It's been countless aha moments throughout my lifetime. And I didn't grow up a Zen Buddhist. I grew up a Catholic. And what I've learned about religion is that a lot of religions are just another form of a box, a form of a paradigm. And so what I was intrigued by were the teachers of what later became religion. So I was paying close attention to the teachings of Jesus, paying close attention to the teaching of the Buddha, close attention to the teachings of Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching. And what I found is that they were all saying the same thing, essentially. And that the dualistic mind, the ego mind of humankind, split things into categories and into boxes and separateness. And that's very common among humankind, to separate, not to unite.
Yeah, and sometimes we think that makes life easier, compartmentalizing like that.
Yeah, but
it doesn't.
Right. But if we're not careful, we create competitions.
Yeah.
My way is right and your way is wrong. And and you see it. We see it in government. We see it in business. The other side is bad. The other side is evil. Something wrong with the other side. Where the true masters didn't see two sides, the yin and yang. They saw both sides as part of one coin.
One whole, yeah.
One whole. So I teach in business holistic thinking and systems thinking, where everything's connected in some mystical and mysterious way sometime. And it's by understanding that whole picture that we awaken and that we find the true leverage points at which we can make sustainable, transformational change, where we truly make believers out of people. And the world is full of doubt, business is full of doubt, government's full of doubt. Anywhere you look, you'll find people who are stressed, they're anxious, and they almost feel desperate in some ways. Like I can't get my ideas heard. I can't make change because the system's just too rigid.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like that's okay. I'm sorry. This is a small aside, but my son is applying, trying to get into a class in college, and he can't get in. And he comes to me yesterday, Mom, it's because there were budget cuts. I couldn't get in class. I'm like, whoa, dude. That's you are still responsible for your choices, and you can't blame the other person, the other side, or call them bad or whatever, because you still have choice of how you can get through that, around it, or make something different.
Well, that's exactly right. And as soon as somebody takes on what I refer to as a victim consciousness,
yep,
they with the law of attraction, if I feel like I'm a victim, if I think I'm a victim, if I act like I'm a victim, I'm going to just draw more of that into my life. So now I've become a victim in more and more and more circumstances, at least in my mind. And I never really solve the problem. I never really take ownership. So, contrary to the victim consciousness is the champion consciousness. What Carl Rogers, the great psychiatrist, coined internal locus of control versus external locus of control. So, great performers, peak performers, have a high degree of internal locus or place of control, meaning as soon as something goes wrong, the first place they look is in the mirror. What am I doing that's troubling me? What am I doing that's causing this result? What am I sowing that's causing me to reap this output? And what do I need to change? So whether it's a student, trying to get into a class, an entrepreneur trying to get a bank loan, an employee trying to get an idea accepted by their boss or their executive committee or whatever, or a parent trying to get an idea across a child, whatever. It applies to everyone. What we have to learn and accept and embrace is that we have something to do with the equation, like it or not.
I totally agree with you. It's a universal principle.
Sure.
We participate, and therefore, in participation, it's important. I like what you were talking about not being in competition. What I was hearing is being in cooperation.
Oh, absolutely. Cooperation is a much higher energy than competition.
Isn't it, though? Mm-hmm. And this is interesting coming from an ex-quarterback, John. How did you, if you could kind of delineate for other people that are sitting there going, yeah, but, dude, it's a competitive world. How did you get from quarterback, which it was all about us against them, yeah?
Well, except if you look past that, great athletes and great performers compete against their own mistakes.
Oh,
okay?
That's good.
So it's not that I'm not competitive, but the first question I ask is, where can I improve? What am I doing wrong? How can I get a little bit faster, get a little bit more accurate in whatever it is I'm doing?
So then your competition is no longer something outside of you, but it's something within yourself that with the intention to, for the betterment of yourself.
Absolutely.
And the growth.
Yeah, fear is one of the greatest obstacles we all face, whether
yeah.
we're an athlete or a singer or a cook or a radio host. It doesn't matter. If we go through life afraid, we go through life with the brakes on, so to speak. We don't even realize we're doing it half the time, by the way. But we are losing flow. We're losing efficiency. We're losing safety. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't drive your car with the brakes on all the time, but because it's not safe and it's not efficient. Certainly not economical, but we do that emotionally and mentally a lot, and we don't even realize we're doing it. So how can I release or let go of fear and doubt and uncertainty? How can I walk up to that line of scrimmage poised and confident and graceful and in sync with a higher power, so to speak, so that source energy flows through me? I'm just a conduit.
Yes.
And it's a very powerful awakening to get to that point. Because so often we're not there. We think the competition's external. It's out there somewhere. Even in business, if I'm Disney, then I think the competition is Universal products or something like that, Universal Studios or something. But Disney doesn't think that way. Disney says, look, our mission statement is to make people happy. So really our competition's anything and everything that makes people unhappy. So it's litter. You'll notice how clean the parks are. It's it's lost or confused customers or guests, as they call it.
Right.
All right. So what can we do to make sure people don't lose their car when they come out at the end of the day, or that they don't get lost in the park or lose a child? And, Disney finds lost kids before the parents even know they're lost.
Yeah.
And that's a fact, because they're aware that would be disastrous, for a lot of parents. And so they actually have scouts out making sure that they keep their eye on everything. And it doesn't take a genius to spot a kid that's lost, or scared in some cases.
Yeah. So, John, what I'm hearing you also talk about in this is that successful businesses have good customer service, and they are aware of what it is that they are bringing to the table for their customers.
That's exactly right. How are we getting paid? Who's paying us?
Right.
By the way, a lot of people who might not be awake think, well, I'm getting paid by the company, and they get the money from the bank, I guess, or they get it from some investors or something. No, that's not how business works. Business, you survive in business by making your customers happy and getting paid for value.
For
if
value.
you don't deliver value, all right, you're not going to get paid. And if you don't do it really, really well, your clients are going to leave you, or your customers are going to leave you. And by the way, if they leave you, they're probably going to tell people.
Yes.
And pretty soon you're on a downward slope. So you want to make sure that you take good care of your customers who pay you, whether you're a $100 billion company or a startup. That's the ticket, and that money is not bad. Money is the lifeblood of business. Imagine a human body without blood. It wouldn't last long.
Well, money, what we talk about on Living Your Inspired Life here, John, is that money is part of the energy flow.
It is. It's currency. That's why we call it currency.
Right. And if we're conduits, that currency has to flow through us. It's not something that you... I think the old paradigm was I got to save all my money for a rainy day, and the what if stock market thing crashing. But I think the truth is in that circulation of currency, if you will, you stay open to all the other creative ideas that you need to put into your business to make it viable. Yeah?
Exactly. And you used the key word there, circulation.
Yep.
Good circulation is healthy, whether it's the human body or it's the organizational body, the business, the government. We have to have good circulation. If we stockpile money, okay, what we're actually doing, and we don't even realize it in many cases, is we're adopting a scarcity consciousness.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So if we believe in scarcity, there's not enough. By the way, that's part of the dualistic competitive ego mindset. There's not enough for all, so I have to stockpile. I have to beat you out. In order for me to win, somebody's got to lose.
And we're seeing that it's not working so well over the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. So what we really want to do is accomplish what I refer to as flow. So flow is it's creativity flow, it's idea flow, it's value delivery flow to our customers, it's cash flow. Okay, flow is where we want to be, and athletes call it the zone. A lot of times I get into the sync, I get into this special space, so to speak, where I call it Zenergy. We've got this powerful sacred energy flowing through us, and we're doing things we didn't even think we could do. And it's almost like out-of-body experiences sometimes. And it's extremely powerful. And so all of that's about flow. Now, here's the thing. To get into flow, we have to allow it. Allow it. We get in the way. We have these obstacles that disrupt flow, and fear is one of the most significant. Ignorance is another, of course. And we get in the way. But true empowerment, including self-empowerment, is about opening the valve so that the water can flow, the sacred energy can flow. Mm-hmm. Kind of like saying, a blade of grass doesn't have to try hard to grow. It's supposed to. It's its destiny. It's sacred, mission, if you will. An oak tree doesn't have to try to turn into an oak tree and grow tall and strong and bear acorns. It's supposed to. So once we understand the whole Zen, the whole life flow, the Tao Te Ching, this whole everything the great masters talked about, and we realize we're all meant to flow, to grow. Our spirits are here to manifest amazing miracles and creations. And once we start to realize that and tap into it and get out of our own way, then sometimes we just stand in awe of what we experience.
Yeah.
I'm blown away almost every day by the things I see.
Yeah. So
in a very positive way.
I got that. You sound very positive all the time.
Well, yeah, and it's not always easy. I was telling some friends just today, because I'm in Utah teaching this week, and next week I'm out in L.A. teaching, and then I'm at the expo, the CLE, the Conscious Life Expo. But I traveled 51 out of 52 weeks last year.
Holy moly!
So yeah, that's not easy.
No.
A lot of people would go, "Wow, do you get sick a lot? How do you do that?" It's joyful. It's amazing to me, and My children are all grown up and out of the house, and I'm single, so I'm not like leaving anybody and alone.
Right, no dog or cat either. I bet.
My friends are we love every moment we get together and things like that. But I'm doing it because it's making a very positive difference in the world. I get joy out of that. My clients get joy out of that. And when I write, I get into flow. So, because sometimes I go back and read things I wrote years ago, and I can't believe I wrote it.
I get that.
Yeah, it's like a channeling,
Yeah.
In fact, I know it's a channeling.
So, John, let me ask you, if somebody's wants to be an entrepreneur, they've got this idea, then how do you support them in being in the flow and getting it done as opposed to the old-fashioned paradigms?
Well, I walk them through a series of important questions. They're simple questions, but rather profound in the discoveries that come from them. And the whole book, Zentrepreneur, is designed around these questions. So the first chapter is titled "What If," and that's where the beginning entrepreneur is. What if I start this business? What if I start a cooking class? What if I start a yoga class? What if I start a radio show? What if anything, right? Mm-hmm. And the what if opens the mind up to possibilities. And what we first discover then is that there are endless possibilities. We're just surrounded by solutions waiting to be discovered. But if we see problems instead of solutions, then we're off to a lousy start.
Right, you're not going to get very far.
Mm-hmm. So we want to see this, is the glass half full or half empty?
Right. When I work with clients, John, I often encourage them that the possibilities and the solutions, which I think it sounds like this is what you tell people, reside within. And so oftentimes I notice people are looking for the answers outside. Well, where's my affirmation that what my idea is good and I should go for it? And I encourage people, like you said earlier, to go within and find that answer within yourself. You don't need an outside source necessarily saying,
Sure.
yeah, go for it.
Exactly. And so as you what if, you start to, all of a sudden, if you're paying attention to your energy, your heart, your mind, your heart, mind, your soul, all of a sudden you'll start to feel, you know what, this really inspires me. This intrigues me. This is something I want to pursue further. Then chapter 2, which goes with chapter 3, is why, and then chapter 3 is why not. So chapter 2 is why do it. List the reasons why you would want to do it. What's the value in it? Okay, how is it going to improve the world in some way? How is it going to solve a problem? Okay, what are you proposing? What's your value proposition? That's the terminology we use in business. What are you proposing in terms of delivering value? And then chapter 3, why not do it? And that's a chapter a lot of people skip. So they got this idea, they can think of all the reasons why they should do it, but then they end up later on going, oops, because they didn't contemplate and consider the why not. What are the forces against me? Why shouldn't I do it? Where could I come up short? You know, do I have the capital I need? Do I have the know-how? Do I have the support, the team? Why not do it? And so we have to be very open-minded and contemplative as we pursue this, because if we don't play with it, both the yin and the yang, we could get tripped up. And then chapter 4 is who? Who can help me do this? I don't have to know all the answers myself. And so in many cases, I've had to find who's to help me with the next chapter, which is how. How am I going to do it? I got to lay out a plan. I got to think it through. Okay, what are the critical success factors? What do I have to have in place in order for this to be successful? And if I don't know how, then I got to go back to who and figure that out. So, for example, years ago when I wrote my first book back in the mid '90s, I didn't know how to write a book. So I read a book on how to write a book. And I learned from a who to do the how. And I've done that all my life. I've found the who's to help me with the hows, so that I have good coaching, good counsel, good support. You know, we don't do anything alone. We might think we do, but that's just the arrogant ego, if you will, looking for attention and credit.
Right, and I think it's an old paradigm, again, coming from our previous generations, where you've got to man up and do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying about finding the who, because the who is going to help you answer the how, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And so we go through the how, then we go through the when. You know, when are we going to start? Because timing is critical.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, you know, we've all struggled with time management from time to time. We waste a tremendous amount of time. Businesses waste an extraordinary amount of time. And it's easy to get distracted with the latest technology, with the social media, with all kinds of stuff. It's very easy to get distracted. So the when chapter addresses, you know, how to manage time, which is one of our most valuable resources as people. And then we run into chapters like yeah, but. The yeah, but chapter is where no matter what it is we've come up with, we're going to run into some yeah, buts. Somebody's going to say, yeah, but you can't make any money doing that. Yeah, but you're not really qualified.
Oh, yeah, I just came from a meeting earlier with a lot of yeah, buts. Took all the wind out of my sails for a while.
Yep. So we have to anticipate the yeah, buts ahead of time and plan accordingly. So the chapters are not sequential. Sometimes we're in the yeah, but chapter, and we're anticipating yeah, buts, and we have to go back to the how to say, all right, here's how we're going to deal with this resistance, with this yeah. You know, you go to the bank, I need some money to kick off a new business, and they go, yeah, but you don't have a credible business plan or whatever. So if I know they're going to ask for things like that, I got to make sure I go in with a credible business plan. You know, and then the book goes on to, after yeah, but, to so what, now what.
So, John, in all of that, the yeah, buts, because I know even if at the very first, what if, I've worked with people that the what if is what stops them because they're so scared.
Yep.
What if your life could be this amazing and you could be doing the thing you love to do and making money at it and helping people? What if? And they go, oh, no, but see, it won't work. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they're scared out of their mind.
Yeah, so we're back to external locus of control, and the yeah buts are, it's fear, it's doubt, it's stress. By the way, a lot of that fear is subconscious. We're not even aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I teach letting go techniques. In fact, I wrote another book years ago that got a lot of attention called Beyond Doubt, 4 Steps to Inner Peace. And the 4 steps are let be, let go, let see, and let flow. So we've got to accept what is and deal with the hand we've been dealt. That's let be. And we have to let go of the resistance and let go of the fear and the anxiety that's holding us back, the limiting belief. When we let go of those things, we see in a very different way. So now we see the people that used to annoy us as great teachers in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see differently, we flow differently. And it's iterative and circular. So once we get to let flow, we're back to let be again. And it's an evolutionary model. And so with the let go, a lot of people say, well, how do I let go of these doubts I've had forever, these phobias? I've been afraid of storms since I was a kid, or I've been afraid of spiders or something, or I'm afraid to give public presentations. I'm afraid to get up in front of people and talk. Whatever it is. There are some very powerful techniques. I'm going to teach one at this Conscious Life Expo. Actually, I'm going to teach a couple, but one that's very popular these days is EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It's meridian tapping, and it's a very powerful technique now used worldwide.
Oh, I've done that. That works.
It's awesome. Yeah, so there are techniques. Once you identify these fears and phobias and these resistance factors, there are techniques that are simple and effective to let those things go, and then see the world in a very different way and experience the world in a very different way.
John Murphy, this has been a fast and furious conversation, and I am so grateful that we had it. I'd love to have you on later in your busyness for an hour conversation about all of this stuff, if possible.
Let's do it.
Okay, I love it. So meanwhile, you're going to be at the Conscious Life Expo next weekend, which is February 7th to the 9th, and you're teaching on the which day?
Saturday the 8th at 6 o'clock.
Saturday the 8th at 6 o'clock. Go and see John and find out all that you can do to get out of your own way and lead, yeah?
That's right.
Oh,
yep.
John, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of your travels.
Thank you so much, Susan. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Didn't turn out like you planned, and you feel left behind. Note the tightening of your grip and the closing of your mind. I can only hope you'll dance regardless of the circumstance.
And welcome back to Living Your Inspired Life. This is Susan Burrell. If you've missed anything on our program, go to livingyourinspiredlife.org and get tuned in and tuned up and develop your power perspective. And today I'm talking to a couple people that are participating with something that's happening in Los Angeles next weekend, the Conscious Life Expo. And if you haven't done this before, I highly encourage you to go down for the weekend. It's February 7th through the 9th, and meet some really awesome people, get some new life skills and tools to tune you up. And there's just lots of vendors there to just see what's out there that helps you to develop a conscious life. So today I want to welcome somebody who's going to be doing a workshop there. His name is Dr. Eric Burrell. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Eric, you have something called the Reconnection. So what can you, I want you to talk about Reconnection, because you have a book out called Reconnection, Healing Others and Healing Yourself. And it sounds like you've had kind of an interesting life up until now, where you started as a chiropractor and then you developed this healing modality, yes?
Well, yeah, I didn't develop it consciously. I practiced as a doctor of chiropractic for 12 years when one night a few strange things happened.
Okay, like
I was awakened in the middle of the night by a very bright light. I opened my eyes to see what it was. It wasn't anything seemingly metaphysical or spiritual. It was simply the lamp next to my bed. It had decided to turn itself on. And I felt as if I had been being watched. That there was someone in my home watching me, maybe while I was asleep. It was such a strong feeling that I got up with a knife and a can of pepper spray and my Doberman pinscher, and I went hunting through the house to see who might be there. After about 20 minutes of not finding anyone, I decided it had to be my imagination. I went back to sleep. But that Monday, when I went into my office, 7 of my patients, independently of one another, told me that after I had adjusted them and they were lying on the table relaxing, they felt sets of hands resting on their bodies. They could feel my hands touching them when I wasn't. I noticed that as I held my hands near them and moved them around, that their bodies would go into involuntary movement, fingers moving, arms or legs jerking, eyes darting back and forth. When they opened their eyes, they told me that they were seeing colors they'd never seen before, smelling flowers they'd never before smelled, and they started demonstrating healings, real healings. They were getting up out of wheelchairs, some of them, vision and hearing returning. Children with cerebral palsy or epilepsy were suddenly able to walk and run and play and speak normally, not have seizures any longer, not need medications. Their parents would call, doctors would call. They'd say, "What did you do?" I said, "I didn't do anything, and don't tell anybody." Of course, the more I said that, the more everyone started coming and asking the same thing.
I believe that.
Yeah. And soon people started asking me to teach this. And I said, "Teach it? You've got to be insane." I said, "How do you teach something like this?" I'm standing there and waving my hands in the air looking like an idiot. So I said, "You go outside, wave your hands in the air. Let me know what your neighbors have to say about you." But more and more of my patients would call me up and tell me that when they drove home and pulled up in front of their house, their automatic garage door would start to open and close by itself before they hit the button to open it. Or they walked inside their house and their TV or stereo would start to turn off and on. They would feel sensations in their hands. They would hold their hands near someone in their family, and suddenly the grandfather would walk after the stroke, or the uncle regained his hearing. And that's when we began to recognize that some transformation was taking place once you interact with this more comprehensive field or spectrum of healing, more comprehensive than just energy and what our energy techniques have been giving us so far. What science today refers to as the reconnective healing spectrum. Once we interact with it, it changes us in a way that not only allows us to access our own healings, but to facilitate healings for others.
Okay, so Eric, so it sounds like what you're talking about is some sort of electromagnetic energy. If you're turning on appliances, that you're connected to that. Is that kind of what it is? I mean,
well, Dr. William Tiller was a professor emeritus from Stanford University who's published hundreds of papers and at least about a dozen books. Is famous for many things, including the Tiller-Einstein model of negative entropy and all sorts of things. Says that it is not electromagnetic, yet it is magnetoelectric, and they are not, apparently, one and the same. But it goes beyond that. It is an expansion of life force. You see, everything that we've had here has been energy. Mm-hmm. And so what we've been accessing in our energy healing techniques, Reiki, Jurei, Jin, Qigong, Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, Quantum this, Mattress that, all these things have been accessing us subset portions of the energy that we've had here, which only makes perfect sense. Every time you focus in on a technique, you focus in on something and you focus out the rest. So the first part of being able to access something so comprehensive as what comes through this expansive spectrum is that once we learn to release and let go of technique itself, mm-hmm. then we access the entirety of the energy that's been here. But today we're given a second part of the gift, which is that time is moving faster, and time is one component of our four-dimensional existence in the universe of height, width, depth, and time. So if you visualize our existence in height, width, depth, and time as maybe a balloon, a tiny little balloon in this huge, vast, endless universe, everything inside of our balloon has been energy. Everything outside of our balloon has been an expansion beyond the energy here into light and information. And what's happening is that time is moving faster. Time is expanding. Our balloon is expanding. And the more you blow up a balloon, the thinner it becomes, the more, not just transparent it becomes, but the more permeable.
Permeable, yeah.
Becomes, right. And we're able to access what's been outside of our balloon and communicate that with what's been inside of our balloon. In other words, our balloon of time is becoming thinner. It's disappearing. And as we know, today time is an illusion. And part of us stepping into this illusion is the recognition that it's an illusion, allowing time to actually disappear. And what the scientists are saying is that when we step into this timeless state through which we access the reconnective healing spectrum, we access aspects of light and information that have not been seen here on the planet before, that actually transform our very DNA so that our DNA can begin to reproduce or produce and emulate more coherent levels of light that has been measured from DNA prior to now.
Okay, wow. I am just digesting everything you just said, Eric. That's fascinating. So so in learning how to open up to that is what I'm hearing you say. How do you harness it so you're not like randomly firing off or, I'm sorry, but, I mean, this could be like an amazing healing thing, but couldn't it also like be cause other things to happen? You following what I'm saying?
You mean like cats to become instantaneously pregnant or something?
Well, if you're turning on lights and stuff like that without knowing it, how do you harness it so that you really can focus it on the thing you want to affect as opposed to being unconsciously affecting a lot of things or healing a lot of things?
I think, it's actually a very broad concept. And the way you access this is you feel for it. You listen with a different sense. You're feeling, you're receiving, and there's a transformation in it. It doesn't randomly set things off, although it appears random, the way we talked about it. I mean, it doesn't turn off life-saving equipment or cause pacemakers to stop functioning. Yes, it does seem to get lights turning off and on and other things that would appear random, but my belief in this is, well, if you ever spoke to someone who's had a real life after death experience, they often talk about as they're getting closer to that light, they suddenly see everyone they've ever known in their current lifetime and the previous lifetime and all prior lifetimes. And they're all standing there encouraging them on their way to that light, letting them know it's an encouragement. They're not taking them to the light. They don't pull up in a motorcycle with a sidecar and they hop in.
Right.
But they're there to encourage. Just like when we go to a race, we show up at the last, 50-yard line or something to encourage the runners to complete. Well, it's as if humanity is right now standing on the precipice of the next level of its evolution. And the rest of the universe is showing up in encouragement and making its presence known. And it seems that one of the ways of making the presence known of a more comprehensive universe is sometimes communicated through the simplest things, such as lights flashing off and on suddenly, and doors opening and closing.
Okay, so we're nodding our heads. Right? We agree with you. I agree with you here in the studio. And for listeners, how do you discern that that's not somebody's ghost opening and shutting doors? Or do you know what I mean? How do you get that that's the energy flowing through you that you can utilize?
Well, what if it is a ghost? What is a ghost? In other words, we exist on a continuum of different forms of existence. And it's all us. It's like different facets of the diamond. It's all the diamond. And so we look at other forms of our existence and we want to call them other people instead of recognizing that it's us, humanity, existing on these many different planes at once. So we call one of them ghosts. We call another one extraterrestrials. We call one our guides. We call one spirits. We call one angels. But it's really all us. So it is us in our many different forms, communicating with us in our humanity form, saying, that the universe is here to support you. We're the ones who take these names and call something ghost and then create a whole fear story around it for no real manifestation of other people.
You know what? I love that explanation because I have not heard that put that way. And to me, as you're saying it, it's calling to mind that we are all in this interactive unity of life, of experience, so that there is no separation between one and the other.
Right. There's no separation. So, we say, oh, I've had a life in the Pleiades, and we want to be really special because we're Pleiadian. So is everyone else.
Uh-huh.
A diamond with all of these facets. There's a Pleiadian facet, there's a Syrian facet, there's a human facet, and there's a New Jerseyan facet,
Right, and a Native American facet.
Yeah, of course. And we've even been, grow up Jewish, but we may have had a past life as an Arab. Grow up German, may have had a past life as someone else that the Germans didn't like. I mean, there are these things of positive and negative. We have to embrace the fact that we are all fully comprehensive beings, but our attention is on the facet that we're living. We are here to fully experience and explore the human facet of our life in this point. That's why we've chosen to be here now.
Yes.
But the reconnection allows us to reconnect with that fullness that we experience in between lifetimes when we are at that state, when everything is light and everything is love, and we recognize who we are and we manifest perfection, health, fullness, and consciousness, and then to be able to experience that awareness here, the human life on physical form in this plane.
So, Eric, how do you explain that to the everyday guy on the street or woman on the street who hasn't had these kinds of cosmic, if you will, epiphanies and awakenings and all that? How do you translate that down to the everyday person who's not necessarily fully aware or awake of these things? Or do you just work with a particular level?
No, actually, I speak all around the world. I speak at the United Nations, to different governments, at hospitals, at universities. I've spoken at Madison Square Garden. And I speak at hotels to lay people. And, you tell your truth. Now, yes, I'm speaking a little more an etheric concept for audience, but I mean, that's because it's your audience. I guess you sort of know your audience. I think the simplest way to explain things, the better. Look, for example, I'm on the road 45 weeks a year. I teach seminars all around the globe. And inevitably, someone will start an innocuous conversation with me if they're sitting in the seat nearby on a plane, which is, what do you do? Now, I know that not everyone really wants to hear this answer. And I don't want to give it to everyone. So I start off gently and I say, I teach. They say, what do you teach? I said, seminars. They'll say, on what? And I'll say, on healing. I make them ask me 3 times to see if they're really interested. If they say, what kind of healing? Then I say to them, I wave my hands in the air looking like an idiot. People have healings. We don't really know how it works. It's being studied by hospitals and universities around the globe. I've written a book. It's in 39 different languages. I've trained over 100,000 people to do the work, and I used to be normal like you. Stop, but usually that just begins a conversation that goes on and on and on. And I keep it as real and grounded as possible. I'm not a woo-woo person. I didn't plan this. I didn't study healing techniques. I didn't study rituals or, go off with shamans. Really what happened to me was I went home on a Thursday night thinking I was a doctor. I came back in on a Monday and I was something else. Now, my parents had always told me I was something else, but I don't really think that this is what they had in mind.
Yeah. So how did you navigate that? That must have been hugely confronting to wake up, the next morning and go, whoa, something happened. And how did you navigate that? for yourself? Because I would imagine there's lots of people, as you're talking about, this is the time and the time continuum is sped up and the balloon is getting thin. I would imagine there's other people. Yeah, I would imagine there's other people that are having these experiences, but because of whatever their past history, might be frightened of them. So how did you deal with it when you had this transformation or occurrence?
I realized that I was standing in the presence of something far greater than I had ever thought about or than I'd ever known. And I knew at that point, not even consciously I knew, but I knew that I had really just one of two choices: fear,
right,
or love. And I chose to go with the excitement of it that compelled me in a way that I had absolutely no choice whatsoever than to follow it and tell my truth to whoever wanted to hear my truth.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, along the way, I thought, like you, I thought, oh, this must have happened to a lot of people. And I went out looking for these people. And I heard lots of stories, and people came to me with their stories. None of it seemed to be the same. It seemed to be that different people had different portions of this. One seemed to be really doing the same thing, but I wasn't sure, and all these people were supposed experts.
Uh-huh.
As they gave me suggestions and advice. This one would say, protect yourself in a white flame or a purple flame, and this would say, move your hands clockwise, and this would say, do this symbol and do that symbol, and shake the negative energy off, and spray yourself down with alcohol. And I would, more of these things that I did, the less and less the healing would come. Till eventually it dawned on me that every choice that we make, every action that we take either comes from fear, lack, limitation, the illusion of separation, the illusion of darkness, control, or it comes from love, oneness, unity, prosperity, light, abundance, freedom. We cannot give a gift. We cannot give a gift that we don't allow ourselves to accept and receive. We cannot stand in a state of fear, protecting ourselves in different colored flames, taking off negative energy, coughing out that energy, and spraying ourselves down with alcohol, and yet facilitate healings that don't reside over there in fear. They reside in love. We cannot stand in the need for control, doing step A and C, technique 1, 2, and 3, put instead of Japanese symbols in the air or holding your hands in diamonds and triangles, and allow for healings that don't reside in control. They reside in freedom, the freedom that allows from the observer and the observed, the witness and the witness, the seer and the seen. And that, when I started getting that I can't stand in fear, lack, and limitation and facilitate these grand healings that are in love, light, and abundance, I let go of the techniques, the rituals, the protections, and the healings came back up way beyond what any of these teachers were able to bring through in the teachings with the rituals, the techniques, and the protections. And what happened with them is as I got them to release those things, their healing enhanced. And as we brought in people who had no background, even interest in healings, who didn't go through any of those approaches, they were able to facilitate these healings at great level. And it came about, I was afraid that I couldn't teach this at all. I'll train close to 100,000 people around the world. And the gift is, once you attend a Reconnective Healing Seminar, I can pretty much make you two promises. A, end of the seminar, you will be able to do anything and everything healing that I can do. And B, you will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that any human being anywhere on the planet can do, but that's not a guarantee that you will do it. You will be able, but it depends upon, for you to actually do it, is your willingness to let go of the fear-based protections, the complicated techniques, the rituals. We have to let go of doing the healing and instead allow ourselves to become the healing. Just like when you take a lit candle to light another candle to light another candle, you never see that flame doing a technique or protecting itself or getting here or taking on darkness. You just see that flame standing in its own truth, integrity, and perfection of the light, the essence of who and what it is. If anything, it grows brighter in this situation, and by doing so, by just standing in its own integrity, it simply inspires the flame to ignite on the next candle and the next and the next. And when we allow ourselves to leave the control, the rituals, the basis, the protections, we simply inspire the healings within others with whom we interact.
Eric, I love that analogy about the flame and standing in its own integrity and power, and what you said about not doing the healing but being the healing. And this is like ancient wisdom. This is like in and throughout so many different modalities of philosophies.
It's a two-part gift.
It's a two-part?
It's a two-part gift because part A, we've always had access to from the ancient, what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming, releasing the technique, the ritual, and the control. That's the part A that we've always had. But there's a new part. There's part B of the gift that is new now because of what we talked about before, the expansion of time that wasn't here at that level, allowing us to receive more. So to receive the part of the new, the aspects of light and information that are coming through in this healing spectrum, we have to first accept the gift of the old, which is letting go of and releasing techniques. Our ego wants us to say, I've mastered this technique, that technique, the other technique, and here are all my certificates nicely matted and framed on my wall. And the truth and the essence of it says, guess what? It's a piece of paper. I don't need that. I appreciate the training wheels of the techniques that tell me when to move my hands clockwise and when to move them counterclockwise. But when I master the bicycle with training wheels, it's only so that I can master the bicycle itself. And to do that, the training wheels must come off. And the true gift of our energy healing techniques is that it doesn't expand our abilities as healers as we learn more techniques. The true gift is only received once we transcend the very technique itself.
Okay. Say that last piece one more time, because I think it's very important. I think it's just important on how we live life, period.
Absolutely.
To transcend.
So the gift of the training wheels and the bicycle comes only once the training wheels come off the bicycle. The true gift of the energy healing technique comes only once we transcend the technique itself. In other words, the true gift of technique itself comes only when we transcend the concept of needing to be in or do a technique.
Right, I hear that. So letting go. So, this is interesting because I'm an ex-actress, and that's a lot of what would happen in class. What you're saying is you learn this technique, but if you don't let go of the technique so you can just be it, be the thing you're doing, be the character you're portraying, then all you can see is the acting technique, and it sounds like the same thing. And I do think it's a good analogy for living. We think we have to have all these different things and modalities in place, and yet really the true freedom that you've been speaking about and the experience of love and being is when we let go of all of that so that we can just be in our existence. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you are correct. And I think we're going to be doing a little something next month in the Los Angeles area. You might have the information on that.
Well, I have the information for the Conscious Life Expo next weekend, February 7th through the 9th. And Dr. Eric Burrell, what day are you actually facilitating?
Well, that's a really good question.
Oh.
And I think that I am on Sunday at 4 o'clock.
Okay, so for people that want to find out more about this, you can go to consciouslifeexpo.com and pull up their schedule and all of that, find out the prices and where it's at. Oh, sorry, I should tell everybody. It's at the LAX Hilton, 571 Century Boulevard in Los Angeles next weekend, February 7th through the 9th. We've been talking to Dr. Eric Burrell about reconnection and the healing energy that he teaches. I invite everybody to go to the Conscious Life Expo and find out more about how you can enhance your life. Dr. Eric Burrell, thank you so much for joining us today on Living Your Inspired Life.
It's my pleasure. And if anyone, if you want to attend any of the full seminars and learn how to do this work, you can go to Reconnection.com. Again, it's Reconnection.com. I know there's a seminar in Massachusetts area, Kripalu in March. There's one in Montreal in April and one in Miami in May.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. You've been listening to Living Your Inspired Life. If you've missed anything, go to livingyourinspiredlife.org. Get tuned in, tuned up, develop your power perspective. And so I'm just going to finish with, and so it is, namaste.